Hey troop leaders, I'm Katie, and in this video I'll be explaining activity 4 of the Coding Basics badge for juniors, which is called Using Loops to Improve Your Algorithm. In this activity, your juniors will be pairing up to make BFF handshakes that use loops to repeat actions. For this activity, you're going to need the loop handshake example handout and the loop examples. It's basically a few pages of different everyday activities that have loops involved in them. Both of those materials can be found in the VTK in the meeting aids section. This activity is all about loops in computer science. In computer science, programmers put loops into their code to make their algorithms, which is the list of steps that their computer will follow, easier to understand and easier to follow. Loops make steps in algorithms repeat over and over and over, and this can make us looking at a set of directions be a lot easier for the reader and for the person trying to understand what they're being instructed to do, or also a computer, what they're being instructed to do by the computer programmer who has given it the algorithm. There are a lot of examples of how loops can be found in everyday activities and even in song lyrics. Like, when a chorus gets repeated 2 times, you'll see at the end of the line of lyrics 2x. That just means that you're gonna sing that part of the song twice. Loops make everyday activities a lot more efficient and easier on us. For me, when I do the dishes, I think about doing them all where I will put them all in the sink, I will wash them all, and then I will dry them all. I won't do one by one, where I'm drying all like individual dishes at a time, because that just would be a waste of time on my end, and it's not the most efficient way to get that done. So that's just an example of how loops can make your directions and your process a lot simpler to follow. In computer science, loops are really important when writing code. They make code shorter, easier to write, and easier for the computer to understand. Ask your girls where they see loops being used in their everyday activities too. There is a great resource on the volunteer toolkit that is just a packet of loop examples. Has to do with brushing their teeth, folding clothes, that kind of thing. But you can also ask them for their own experiences and where they think that they are using loops. After this, you are going to move into the activity where they will be making handshakes with their friends. For this activity, juniors will be in pairs to make handshakes and figure out what steps they want to include, but they also need to have at least one loop that will repeat at least one action of their handshake. Give all the pairs a few minutes to come up with their steps, and they can even write their algorithm down on a piece of paper if they'd like. I think that would be really helpful so that they can actually see the loop and what it would look like if you're writing it down for somebody else to follow. Have all your girls show off their super fun handshakes with their partners, and then you're gonna add a twist. Ask them to go back to their algorithm, back to the drawing board, and see if they can include a nested loop, which is basically a loop inside of a loop. So they will be taking the same concept as before and making it a little more specific for adding either a few new steps to their handshake or wanting to repeat some existing steps over and over and over again. So this handout shows an example of what a regular loop will look like. It's this green part where you would loop the entire section that is high 5, fist bump, and low 5 2 times. So that's what they'd be doing twice. But if you wanted to add now your nested loop, you are going to have another section in here, another pair of brackets, and add repeat 2 times or repeat 3 times, however many times you want to repeat those few steps, so that when you're in the middle of repeating these actions in your handshake, you will repeat something within that. So give your pairs a few minutes to go back to their algorithms and decide if they want to add a new step into their handshake that will be in their nested loop, or if they want to take an existing step and repeat that within itself a few times. It can be as many times as they want. After that, everyone can kind of come together and show off their handshakes and see if the other juniors can identify where their loops are and where their nested loops are in their algorithms when they're performing their handshakes. After everyone has demonstrated, you can ask your girls a few debrief questions to help them reflect on what they've learned. You can ask them if they liked adding the loops into their handshakes, if it made it more fun for them or more easy to understand, or the opposite, if it made it a little more complicated for their process of making and executing their handshakes with their friends. You can also ask them how they might explain a loop to one of their friends or to one of their parents. This will help them, in their own words, describe what a loop is so that they're more likely to remember it. I hope you all had fun seeing what the girls came up with for their handshakes. I know when I did my virtual badge workshops, it was really unique to see what they could come up with, even though they weren't together. They were just doing high fives to the screen, basically. That worked too, and they understood what loops were, and they still had the process of writing the algorithm and working together to do so. Remember, all of these meeting aids can be found in the volunteer toolkit, and also information on the plugged options if you're interested in going to CodeSpark and seeing how an actual computer activity would take place to teach your girls about loops. Thanks for watching. Happy coding.